Hello guys, and welcome to the second part of our hybrid hump day series. This time, we're going to be looking at a max stat hybrid. Yes, there's not only the good old Palinol's hybrid that we took a look at last week, there's also, of course, just a max stat hybrid where you don't focus on weapon damage that much, but you focus on getting all your stats up to a certain point. And yeah, I personally like max stat hybrids. I know it's not really for everyone, but um, I think they're really viable, especially for support roles. I would say they are probably better than the typical Palinals hybrid. So yeah, if you want to play support or have a more bulky hybrid, I would recommend this one because they can have a lot of health. On this particular hybrid, I didn't go for that much health because I'm a risky guy. I like the risky playstyle. You know me. You know me. No, I just like to stack my offensive stats as high as possible. So yeah, let's take a look at it. Our stats: 36k, Magica and Stamina. Wow. What a sight. What a sight. That looks super sexy. I like that a lot. Like I said, max health not that high, but 23k is still plenty to work with, in my opinion. Um, this is a medium armor build, so of course you can't stack the health that high. But if you did this in a heavy armor build and you went for like the tri-stat food, you could push way over 30k health easily, very, very easily. Um, our recoveries aren't really that great. Our stamina is only sitting at 900, and our magica is not even at 800. But to be honest, you don't really need that much because you have big pools, and the way you play a hybrid is you, of course, use both pools for damaging, for defense, for healing. So you basically have a 72k resource pool that you can pull from. And of course, this is a DK. I would recommend playing this kind of hybrid on a DK because they have a lot of ways to sustain, and you don't really see the sustaining power of a DK in the stat sheet. They, of course, have the poison status effect that gives stamina. They have the burning status effect that gives the magicka back. They have the helping hands passive that gives you stamina back when you use a helping. What is it? Earth and heart? Is it Earth and heart? It is. When you use an Earth and Heart skill, you get stamina back, which is pretty nice. And of course, you have the Battle Roar, and you have your pots, and you have heavy attacks. So you have so many ways of sustaining. If you run out of resources, it's your own fault. Just, just to put that out there. Yeah. If we look at the spell and weapon damage, let's buff up real quick. We do this, we do that. Um, if we buff up fully. So if we light attack with our backbar staff, which is infused and has a weapon damage enchant on, we get up to 4k weapon and spell damage. And if we do our little DK magic with the new whip, and we use ardent flame skills, then we will get up to 4.4k weapon and spell damage, which is a lot. 4.4k on top of the already existing 36k resource pools. That's a lot of damage. That's a lot of damage. And yeah, people say hybrids are not viable. They have no idea. They have no idea. Our crits are actually looking pretty decent. 30% on the spell side, and 37 on the weapon crit side. It's actually pretty decent on for a hybrid. It's not that important. Like I explained before, uh, hybrids are not really crit focused, and I don't really know if you can actually build a viable crit focused hybrid, we might take a look at that because I would be very interested in such a hybrid. So yeah, we'll take a look at that at some point. Our resists, of course, we are in medium armor, so the resists aren't too great. We get a little more resist on the back bar, um, but 15k spell and almost 12k physical. It is what it is. You can put an armor buff on this build if you want. I do not run one because I just like to play a damage focused playstyle. But of course, feel free to do whatever you want on this build. I just show you to how to build such a hybrid, how to get those stats. But what you want to do with the playstyle is up to you. So feel free. Of course, a little bit of crit resist can't hurt. It's not that much though. Um, we have two Munduses because we are running the Twiceborn Star set, the Mage and the Tower, because we are, of course, stacking our offensive stats. So, yeah, it is a bit finicky to actually get the right Munduses. I still don't know how how the Twiceborn Star set actually works. Sometimes you just activate a Mundus and you get that Mundus and you go to the next Mundus and it overwrites the Mundus that you just took and not the one that you already had. It's weird. Try it out. It's a bit finicky, but it's pretty nice. You can do a lot of things with this set. Um, we are going for, okay, of course, the Mage and the Tower. We are a vampire, as always. You don't have to be, but man, 10% extra regens is nice to have, and of course the damage reduction when you're low health. Can't go wrong with that, to be quite honest. Um, we are using the max magica and stamina food, just because we have enough health. We don't have to put anything into health. I will show you why we still have so much health without putting anything into our health attributes and without running health food. Yeah, so let's take a look at that. We are, of course, running the Twiceborn Star set. It's medium, infused on the big pieces, in divines on the small ones. We have Tristat enchants on the big infused pieces, and we have a mix of Magica and Stamina enchants on the small ones. The next set we're using is Shackle Breaker. Shackle is actually pretty decent, and I just went for this set because it just gives you so much. 2k to your two resource pools is a lot. Of course, you get a little bit of spell and weapon damage, which we need on this build, and we get the recoveries as well. So Shackle Breaker, really, really solid set. As you can see, we have Triune on our jewelry pieces. This, of course, helps just stack more resources. This is also why we have so much health on this build, because we get the health over our Triune enchants, and of course we have our Tristat and enchants on the gear. So that stacks quite a bit of health. And yeah, we have spell damage enchants on our jewelry. Because we are in medium armor, it is easier to stack the weapon damage than it is to stack the spell damage. So putting spell damage on the jewelry actually gets us to roughly the same point, at roughly the same values with our weapon and spell damage. So yeah, that's a pretty neat way of building. It's actually pretty straightforward. You just look at the stats and you just add whatever you need to get to a decent stat pool. Our weapons. I went for an ice staff, but you can use whatever you want. I would recommend using a staff, just because you can do the heavy attacks and get some magicka back, which is really nice. But if you really want to, you could also run a bow. But yeah, you should definitely use a ranged weapon because just the combos, heavy attack into a skill, into a crit rush. This is really nice, especially in PvP. In PvE, you won't really need this, but yeah, I just love the heavy attack into a crit rush. That is one of my favorite things to do. We went for an ice staff because we can block with the ice staff and use our magicka. And if our magicka gets low, we can just swap to our greatsword and block with that for a while. It's obviously not recommended blocking with a greatsword, but I mean you have quite a bit of stamina to work with. So if you need it, if you have to block something, you can block it with the front bar. You can block it with the with the back bar. Yeah, Ice Staff is infused with the weapon damage enchant. Of course, we just want to get the weapon and spell damage up. And our Shacklebreaker Greatsword is Nirnhound, just to stack even more damage. We are running a Shock Enchant, but feel free to use whatever you want. The Shock Enchant, of course, can proc Minor Vulnerability, which gives 8% more damage. So that's my preferred route for a hybrid, just stacking the damage, but you can do whatever you want. For the monster sets, we have one Molakena in heavy infused with the Triset enchants on. This, of course, gives us the weapon and the spell damage that we need, and one Dama House in light divines with a Magicka enchant on it. Just stacking more stamina and Magicka. I really like this combo on a hybrid. It really gives you a lot that you need. Even on a Palinils hybrid, this is pretty decent, especially if you're, let's say, you're doing it on a Warden who already has the minor berserk buff, and you don't have to run slime craw. This is a really nice combo. You could also run one Veladrath if you really want it, but I like this combo better because it just fits the overall theme of this build better. All right, let's move on to the skills. We are using Dizzying Swing. This is something new for me because I actually don't like the Dizzying Swing, but they reworked the skill a little. It's a bit faster now. It doesn't have the what is like 200 milliseconds cooldown at the end of it, so you can just recast it faster. But I would not recommend just spamming the skill. Do your combos, do your combos, proc your extra weapon damage with a new whip, and you'll be much better off. The next skill is Venomous Claw, of course. We need a dot and we need a cheap spammable skill. This is really good. It adds the dot pressure. It adds a little bit of burst, and it will of course proc the new Molten Whip passive that gives you the extra damage on the whip and the extra spell and weapon damage stack. So this is a good skill to just have. It's super cheap, so you can basically use this indefinitely. You will never run out of stamina. The next skill is the new Molten Whip, which is a really good choice for a hybrid. I personally would still not use this on my Mag DK because I have a different playstyle, and I don't like that. But for a hybrid, this is perfect. Stacking the spell and weapon damage and getting up to like 99% more damage on your whip. This is insane. You can hit some really hard whips with this. The next skill is Crit Rush. Crit Rush also got a rework in the last PTS patch. It now has no minimum range. You can spam this point blank. You could basically really stand in front of someone and keep crit rushing. I would not recommend doing this, but if you want to, you can. And of course, it is faster now. It doesn't snare anymore, but the speed got increased, so it feels really snappy now. I like Crit Rush. You can do some really nice burst combos with this. Yeah, it's awesome. The next skill is Flames of Oblivion. This is such a great skill for a hybrid. It gives you the extra flame damage, which scales with your highest offensive stats. Of course, we don't have a highest offensive stat because all our stats are pretty equal. But it gives you the Major Prophecy and the Major Savagery buff, which are your spell and weapon crit buffs. And this is, oh man, getting this on a hybrid is so good. You don't even know how good this is. And yeah, it does a lot of extra damage. It's pretty cheap to cast. It will fire three fireballs every 5 seconds at your target, the closest target. And you can reactivate this to fire a fireball instantly. So yeah, this is such a great skill. I love it. For our ultimate, we went with Take Flight, but you can use whatever you want. Dawnbreaker would also be a great pick. Take Flight, I choose this mainly for, I mean, it hits hard and it has a lot of range to it. And man, I just love Take Flight. You can cover so much distance with it. It's amazing. And also, Take Flight got a rework. It's a bit faster now, so you have a faster animation, which is super nice in PvP. If you have a target that just wants to run away, you can easily get them with the Take Flight and Crit Rush. So yeah, my pick. Feel free to use whatever you want. And on the back bar, we have Resolving Vigor. This is our main heal. You can use other heals if you want. You could use a Coagulating Blood. If you want to opt out of running the Ice Staff, you can run a Resto Staff and have Resto heals on this bar. Whatever you like. The next skill is Fragmented Shield. This, of course, is mainly for our major mending. So you pop this and then your Vigor, or first your Vigor and then the Fragmented Shield. Doesn't matter. It gives you 6 seconds of the major mending buff, which will make your Vigor hit really hard. You will get a lot of healing out of this. So yeah, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of this combo. The next skill is Frost Reach. This will add a little bit of burst, a little bit of damage over time, and it will root your opponent. If you're using a different kind of staff, you will get different effects, but you will always get the burst and the damage over time. So I love this. Heavy attack into Frost Reach, weapon swap, crit rush, do your combos. This is this is really good. I just love this combo. This is what I live for, really. So yeah, but feel free to pick something else. You could go if you want. You could go for Force Shock or Force Pulse, of course, just to have a spammable. Or you put down a Wall of Elements would also be great. Yeah, so feel free to use wherever you want. The next skill is Race Against Time. This is, of course, a great skill just for the major expedition for 4 seconds. Keeps you mobile, and it gives you the minor force buff, which increases your critical damage by 10%, which is, like I said, we have pretty decent crit values on this build, so getting the extra 10% crit just makes the hybrid more viable. And yeah, you of course get the snare and immobilization immunity for 4 seconds, which is really important in Cyrodiil. So this is a great pick. I would really recommend using this skill. The next skill is Igneous Weapons. This of course gives us the major sorcery and major brutality buff, which we need on this build because we are not using the Palinals. Palinals just has to stack weapon damage and weapon damage buffs. That's all. This build needs both. That's why I recommend playing this on a DK because they just get it on this skill and it's 42 seconds. This is such a long duration. It's an expensive skill, but I mean, casting it once every potion cooldown is really enough, and you should not have any sustain issues. And for our ultimate, we are using Corrosive Armor. You can use whatever you want, but I think Corrosive is a great pick because it makes you really tanky for 12 seconds, which is a big deal in Cyrodiil, and you ignore all physical resistance of your targets. Of course, this only applies to your physical skills. It is not ignoring the spell resistance, but just the tankiness alone, it just gives you so much breathing room. You have time to just recover from a big burst, or if you have a lot of people on you. So I think that's a great pick, but feel free to use wherever you want. That's the skills, so let's move on to the champion points. In the red tree, we have our standard layout: 51 Ironclad, 77 Resistant, 43 in Hardy and Elemental Defender, and 56 in Quick Recovery. In the green tree, 37 in Warlord and 19 in Sprinter, 56 in Mooncalf, 22 in Arcanist, and 43 in Tenacity. 56 in Tumbling, and 37 in Shadow Ward. Now comes the interesting part, the hybrid damage split. The way I do it is usually 10% in the Elfborn, 10% in Elemental Expert, a little over 3k in Spell Erosion. The same thing on the Stamina side, 10% Precise Strikes, a little over 3k in the Piercing, and 10% in Mighty. And then the rest we just dump into Master at Arms because, you know, we are burst oriented. We have more burst damage than dot damage. We could definitely put something in Thaumaturge, but I don't think we should do that because our dots are not that strong and we should not focus on the dots. The burst is where the damage is, so don't put anything into Thaumaturge. I don't think it's worth it. So yeah, that's the champion points, and that is the build, ladies and gentlemen. I really hope you like it. I personally, I'm in love with this hybrid. It looks so good. All the stats are pretty nice, and it plays pretty nice. I will leave you with a little bit of footage of me fighting a world boss on this build, just so you can see how you can play this. But of course, you can put your own skills on, play your own playstyle. This is just to show you how to get these stats. Yeah, so hybrids are viable, hybrids are in a great spot, and they just keep getting better. So I would highly recommend checking this build out. Make sure you subscribe, and so you don't miss any episodes of the series and all my other content. I highly appreciate that. So yeah, I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.